Hello Capricorn, and welcome to your monthly video horoscope for the month of December 2014. Here's wishing you a very happy holiday season, regardless of how you celebrate the holidays, or even if you celebrate the holidays, here's wishing you a very happy season. Hey, even if it just means to you that it's cold outside and it's another day, then here's wishing you a happy season anyway. Very prosperous and happy new year. Before we touch on the month's astrology and the aspects that are at hand for this month, and there are some pretty powerful ones going on, I just wanted to state, because I haven't really taken the opportunity to do so yet, that it is helpful to listen to these horoscopes for your rising sign as well as your sun sign. As a matter of fact, you'll probably find a higher degree of accuracy if you listen to these for your rising sign. And if you don't know your rising sign, but you do know your birth time, you can go to the free chart calculator, which is available on my website. And you can find that through the astrological services link on my website. In addition, I've also included a link below on this page in the description area for the free chart calculator. You just go there, enter your birth information, including your birth time, and it will calculate your chart for you. And you look for something called the ascendant if you're not that familiar with astrology, and that will be your rising sign. If you don't know your birth time, please do continue to listen to these horoscopes for your sun sign. Without an accurate, or without a birth time, we can't really discover what your ascendant or rising sign is. So in that instance, listen for your sun sign. At the end of the day, Capricorn, what really matters is whether you feel that you can be honest with yourself. On a certain level, that's all that truly matters. It's when you hide from the truth that problems arise in your life. Now, I'm not saying this because I see you hiding from the truth on a very deep level than any other person might. But the reason that I am saying it is because I am seeing you shouldering more than your fair share of stress. And let's face it, when it boils right down to it, being honest with yourself means being honest with yourself when you're making mistakes, but equally being honest with yourself when you're doing well in your life. And occasionally giving yourself the old pat on the back. There's nothing selfish in doing so. In addition, it also means being honest with yourself when you recognize that you're taking on a burden that is perhaps not yours to take on. In either instance, something that doesn't do you any good whatsoever is flogging yourself on the back for A, either making a mistake, or B, shouldering more than your fair share of the load. Instead, the best thing to do is to just learn from whatever has occurred and get on with it. So why am I going into that? I see a tremendous opportunity to take a look at an old devil, so to speak, an opportunity to take a look at the past and see it in a new light, see it in a different perspective. And from that space, have the opportunity for breaking free, liberating yourself from a space in your life from where you have been in a holding pattern for far too long. There's some pretty powerful aspects going on this month that involve the areas of your chart that are called the moksha houses. Now, the moksha houses are the 4th house, the 8th house, and the 12th house. And when those houses are active, we're looking to transition from one phase of our existence to another. We're looking to be free of an old set of standards and head into a new area of life, a new lifestyle, a new way of looking at things, and a new way of relating at things. So let's talk about the aspects this month and how they're creating this energy. You're going to be listening to this probably about the beginning of the month, and because I'm a little bit behind schedule with these this month, my apologies. But the full moon will have already passed. But I'm going to mention it because it's close enough in proximity, and there's a lingering aspect that involves Mercury, which made the full moon of the 6th very powerful. Mercury was trining Uranus at that time, at the same time that there was a full moon in Gemini, and in a section of Gemini, it's called Mrigashira. Now, Mrigashira relates to dissecting our life, taking it apart, putting it back together again in a new manner. Some tones that are related to Mrigashira are reconciliation, reaching a point where something isn't working out, you're dissatisfied with it, or having some sort of chaos or confusion in your life, and then approaching a situation in a completely different manner, which allows new opportunity. That's generally what Mrigashira is about, and seeking fulfillment upon doing so. Okay? Now, Mercury will be forming a harmonious angle with Uranus, as I was mentioning. Mercury is in a section of Sagittarius at present. It's called Jyeshta. Jyeshta translates roughly to the eldest, and so it relates to wisdom. But it's a type of wisdom that comes from being able to see things from a wider perspective, withdrawing from a struggle, a challenge, a confusing set of circumstances, taking a deeper look from a wider perspective, so that when you kind of go back into the fray, for lack of a better way to put it, you're able to go back into it with a higher sense of awareness. Now, this will be forming a harmonious aspect with Uranus in Aries, and in a section of Aries that's called Revati. Revati relates to the end of one cycle of being or of creation, however you want to call it, and the next cycle has not yet come into being. And when you have an aspect like this with Mercury, it's something that allows an opportunity for that movement to finally be attained, for the wheels to finally be set in motion, because you see things from a new perspective. And this is on one level going to be related to the past, and also a way in which you've kind of held yourself in a set of circumstances that you really didn't have to hold yourself in, likely because you felt that something was your responsibility. Well, you're going to find this month that you're going to discover that it's not really your responsibility. And nobody's to blame, either another person or yourself, for shouldering something that was perhaps not your burden. But the best thing to do is to recognize what your responsibility is, and what's required for the next step of the journey. That's what's going to bring the true progress. Now, I should mention that all of this month, the Sun and Mercury are going to be traveling in close proximity to each other. Eventually, they will enter your sign. Right now, they're transiting through your 12th house, and on the 8th, they will conjunct each other exactly. Now, whenever the Sun and Mercury conjunct each other, you've got the Sun, that's the planet of shedding light, and Mercury, that's about the intellect and the mind. And what tends to happen as a result of this is there's a potential for brilliant insight resulting from a Sun-Mercury conjunction. And what makes this even more powerful in this instance is the fact that this will be taking place in Jyeshta, again, as we were talking earlier, offering broad perspective, a new way of looking at things, and most likely a new way of looking at a past set of circumstances which was creating a lot of stress in your life, and where you have been perhaps, here's where you have been hiding. Let's put it this way. Here's where you've been hiding from a change. But now you have an opportunity to create that change. What makes this even more powerful is on the same day that the Sun and Mercury conjunct each other, Jupiter is going to be stationing before it turns retrograde. Now, what does that mean? When a planet stations, it's like it's sitting still in the sky, right? Now, planets are usually either stationing, which is very rarely, it's before they change their motion when a planet stations, or they are moving direct, which is apparent forward motion, or retrograde, which is apparent backwards motion. Now, I say apparent because it all is a matter of appearances. The planets are always moving forward in their orbit. But from our perspective here on Earth, due to a difference of orbital speeds, it can occasionally appear as if a planet is backtracking through the zodiac. Now, Jupiter has been direct for the last several months, and now it's getting ready to shift to retrograde motion. But prior to doing so, it will station. And when Jupiter stations, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And so when the planet of expansion stations, it offers a profound level of integration, a profound level of receptivity that is coinciding with this Sun-Mercury conjunction, making the insight that dawns upon you more powerfully integrated and taken in. Jupiter's in a section of the sky that's called Maga. Maga relates on one level to ancestral energy. So again, we've got this theme of the past. What has come before? Learning from what has come before. Integrating that wisdom. But Maga is also related on many levels to dignity. When it's out of balance, it's related to pride. But in this particular level, it's related to dignity, and Jupiter will be in your 8th house. So that's confidence, strength that comes from a new way of looking at things, seeing things in a different perspective that frees you from the self-blame that you have been placing upon yourself for far too long, based upon not being able to attain a set of ideals that perhaps were a little bit too high for you to set for yourself anyway, and perhaps shouldering a responsibility that wasn't yours to bear. On the 10th, Venus enters your sign. This is very positive news. Happens once a year. Venus will provide a profound level of healing coming upon the heels of this new vision, this new way of looking at things, this new philosophy. And eventually, Venus will transit its own nakshatra, which is in Capricorn, and that is called Purva Ashadha. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but there's very powerful energy on store for you in relation to this Venus transit of your sign. And it happens a couple of days prior to another Mercury aspect. Mercury forms a harmonious angle with Jupiter, and then 2 days later, you have the Sun forming that same angle because they're traveling in close proximity to each other. Now, Jupiter, we were mentioning, is in Maga. Let's talk about where Mercury and the Sun will be at this time, because they will have shifted nakshatras, or lunar mansions as we sometimes call them, and they will be in a section of the sky that's called Mula. Now, Mula is very passionate and driven energy, and ordinarily it can be accompanied by short-sightedness, narrow-minded focus, because when we're driven to achieve something, we focus particularly upon one thing and we apply all of our energy behind it, right? Sometimes that can be positive, sometimes it can be negative. When it's negative, it leads to a situation of chaos, a situation of things not working out quite as we had intended, and we're forced to take a look at things in a different way. When it's functioning in a positive manner, such as in association with this particular Jupiter aspect, then it's a more balanced perspective that's seeing things clearly and is able to apply effort, strength, and power behind that balanced insight. And that's what we're dealing with these two aspects between Mercury to Jupiter and also the Sun to Jupiter. And keep in mind, these two planets are in your house of liberation, your house of the past, and Jupiter's in your 8th. These are moksha houses. This is about shifting from one phase of your life to another. Very powerful opportunity on offer for you with this. And coinciding with the second of these aspects, you also have a harmonious angle between Venus, newly in your sign, and Neptune in Pisces. They will be forming an angle of 60 degrees known as a sextile. Venus will be in Purva Ashadha, which is ruled by Venus. Now, Purva Ashadha is related to the causal nature of the soul. What do I mean by that? The causal nature of the soul is the soul in its natural state, just attracting to itself the experiences, the opportunities that it needs in order to prosper and to grow. It's about authenticity. It's about being real. It's about being honest and peeling away the layers of the ego that keep you from doing that very thing. Neptune is in a section of Pisces. It's called Shatabisha. Shatabisha is very illusionary. It tends to create a set of circumstances that bring you into a state of chaos, making you think that things are one way until you finally discover that they're absolutely another. But you wouldn't have had the opportunity to get to that latter space if you wouldn't have gone through the whole set of illusions anyway. So what is this about? It's about clarification that comes upon the heels of being honest with yourself and potentially being honest with another individual on a deeper level than you've had an opportunity to do so before. And it clears away the confusion of a past manner in which you have expressed yourself, or it may clear away the confusion in a manner in which you were approaching things and how it was appearing to another individual. Okay? On the tail end of that, we've got the very powerful aspect that's going on this month, and exceptionally powerful for you because one of these planets is in your sign, and that is a tense angle between Uranus and Pluto. Now, Uranus and Pluto have been forming an angle of 90 degrees with each other since about 2011. And they are approaching the last of their aspects. They will make one exact aspect this month, and then in March of next year, they will make the same aspect before moving on for quite a long time. Now, squares are tense, but they bring opportunity. And we're going to touch a little bit more deeply on what this means and what it's about for you. But I want to touch on some of the aspects that are associated with it. A couple of days later, Mercury will have recently entered your sign. And in addition to that, after Mercury enters your sign, it will also form the same harmonious alignment that Venus did with Neptune. And Venus on the same day, the 20th, will form a tense angle with Uranus and also conjunct Pluto. Now, Venus acts as a catalyst for this Uranus-Pluto aspect because of this, and because of the fact that Venus rules Purva Ashadha. This makes it very powerful. Now, what's this about? It's about you connecting to your self-esteem, being secure in who you are, looking at a past way in which you might have approached a previous set of circumstances and deciding that you're going to take a more honest, no-holds-barred approach, even if it creates a massive amount of change in your world that potentially you may not want to happen. At least you're at a space where you're able to accept that that actually might happen. Mercury allows for further clarification as Mercury is in Purva Ashadha, leading to open and honest communication that clarifies the confusion of a drama that has been there previously, as we were talking about before with Neptune and Pisces, because Mercury will be forming that same aspect. Okay. Another way of looking at this alignment, Uranus and Pluto, where there's been insecurity about your self-esteem, or where there's been insecurity about your set of values, or even potentially about your finances, there's an opportunity for greater security and greater contentment. And that doesn't necessarily mean that tons of money is going to come your way, but it's not barring that from happening either. What it means is becoming more confident and valuing yourself on a deeper level than you have done so before, not holding yourself responsible for all the world's problems and shouldering all the world's burdens. Instead, letting go of that burden. On the 21st, we've got Mars newly arrived in Aquarius this month, which is ruled by Uranus. And we've got Uranus, which is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, and they're forming a harmonious alignment with each other. This becomes powerful because they're in each other's signs, and that's a state called mutual exchange. In addition to that, on that very same day, Uranus will also station before it moves to direct motion. Whereas Jupiter is moving retrograde, Uranus is moving direct. Usually when you have this type of energy, two planets changing direction over the course of the month, it marks a very big shift in your life. Okay, so that's something to pay attention to this month. Mars will be in Ganishta. We've spoken about Uranus being in Revati. Revati can be about being in a state of limbo, an in-between phase. Now, Mars in Ganishta, Ganishta is about marching to the beat of your own drum, being yourself, being authentic, prospering as a result of doing so, an opportunity to overturn the status quo that has been in your life for perhaps far too long, especially in relation to any insecurities you might have been holding on to based upon, as we've been talking all along, a sense of responsibility or a sense of duty to something that ultimately didn't work out perhaps as you might have wanted it to, and you kind of played the blame game with yourself, right? Now there's an opportunity to finally break free of that blame game and recognize that it's not your fault. It wasn't your fault, and it isn't your fault. Now, on the tail end of that, a new moon in your sign, again in Mula, offering you the power and the progress available to you based upon this new perspective. Very wonderful to have a new moon coming on the tail end of this because it allows new opportunity. And it happens a day prior to Saturn, after 2 years, finally shifting into a different sector of the zodiac. It will be moving into Sagittarius and transiting your 12th house, your house of liberation. Okay, it's also about the subconscious mind, what's driving you, what's propelling you forwards. Saturn at the very beginning of this cycle will be in a section of Sagittarius that's called Anuradha. And Anuradha relates to balance on one level. It's the balance between how much energy you devote to another or to something else and how much energy you devote to yourself, and finding a balance between those two things. That's going to be a challenge that Saturn is going to bring to your attention over the course of the next month. If you'd like to know a little bit more about how these aspects will affect you personally, I do offer a vast range of astrological services that are available through the astrological services page of my website, and a link to that is above. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube page yet, you might consider doing so if you'd like to receive regular updates every time there's a new video posted. You can look for an interview with a fellow Vedic astrologer coming in the near future, perhaps within the next week. All of this becomes available to you. Well, it's already available to you for free, but you become notified when something new is posted if you subscribe to my YouTube page. That's going to do it for your monthly video horoscope for the month of December, Capricorn. Until next month, have a happy holiday season, a very prosperous new year, and please do take very good care of yourself.